I've been watching a bit of Mr. Happy, Xenos, and Golden Tot. Mostly Mr. Happy actually, and it's been interesting.
Yeah.
It does look like it definitely looks a lot harder than I feel like the other ones. Especially with the lack of progress some of them have made, with the fact they've been stuck on the transition phase between phase 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The transition phase, not the real fight, but just transition.
Welcome, everybody, to the Casually Hardcore Podcast. My name is Brian, and joining us, we have a very special guest. You've seen him before on previous reaction videos and podcasts. Chillie, welcome back to the program. Happy episode 47 to you, sir.
Thank you. I'd love to be happy to be back on.
So we've got a lot to talk about. And we actually shifted this podcast over to Mixer because we're going to run this pretty quickly over here on the Work to Game YouTube channel, namely because we have some breaking news from Yoshi P. He put out a post in regards to the feedback he's received from patch 5.11's rebuilding of Isghard regarding basically the concerted works, aka the fate, and more. So we're going to actually jump into that pretty much right off the top, and then we're going to go into a bigger conversation about the state of Final Fantasy XIV, talking about all the excitement. If anybody's worried about stories and spoilers, just note that if we do get to that, that's going to be towards the end of the video. We'll mark kind of any spoilers that we get into. Pretty much everything's going to be focusing on Ultimate, on the Restoration, and more. We do want to thank our sponsors with the Shadow PC. If you guys check the link in the description below, you can get $10 off. Check it out for 10 days. We've been doing cloud gaming since the summer. I play 14. I play I play Destiny 2. I play many games in the cloud, and it's only going to be getting better because that's the whole pitch behind cloud gaming. So if you have the internet and you want to check it out, they've got data centers around the world, and you can go check out their site. Link is in the description. Also, you can use the code DOWORK to save that $10 and check it out as well. Anyway, if you do, let us know what you think about it. We've been hearing a lot of good feedback from those who actually have internet that supports it. I think you just need anywhere from 25 megabits a second down to have a really decent time with that. With business concluded, we've already introduced Chillie multiple times, and so I want to dive in really into this breaking post. Yoshi put it up. Chris, you've got it up. Let's go ahead and dive into what Yoshi P is saying here.
Yeah, this is quite a shift. Our last podcast was with Tanner from Robocast. We had a chance to talk about nostalgia in games. This is a current game. So for those of you that haven't been playing Final Fantasy XIV, we have begun the rebuilding of Isghard that has been long anticipated, long discussed content. We have started that, and there's been some initial drama around day one. So Naoki Yoshida has responded and says, "Hello, everyone. This is Final Fantasy XIV producer and director Yoshi P. We've received a lot of feedback regarding the Isghardian Restoration and have been following the ongoing discussion. Thank you for your interest in this new content. There are 2 points in particular I would like to address. The first is world visit system and firmament player cap. Around the time that the concerted works began, we saw a lot of players using the world visit system, which caused the firmament in the world they were trying to reach its player cap, and many players were unable to participate in concerted works in their home world as a result. This point came up during the development of the Isghardian Restoration, and we were aware of the risks involved in players visiting other worlds to help. However, we decided not to place those kinds of restrictions on the world visit system for the following reasons. The number of crafters and gatherers varies considerably between worlds. The worlds with the most crafters and gatherers have over 4 times as many as those with the least. Worlds with low numbers of crafters and gatherers would struggle to carry out concerted works without visitors from other worlds, creating a risk that those players would not be able to experience this content as intended. The difference in the number of active crafters and gatherers is the main reason for the varying degrees of progress between the various worlds shown on the Lodestone Builder's Progress Report. To help ease this disparity, we decided to allow players to visit other worlds within their data center and lend their assistance to the Isghardian restoration efforts of the world. This is the first time we have implemented this type of cross-world content, and we apologize for the issues described above. However, for the first few days following the release of this content, we would like to observe the trends in each world before coming to any decisions. We understand that being unable to participate in the Isghard Restoration on your own world can be very stressful, but rest assured that we are preparing emergency measures that we can put into action should the situation deteriorate. At which time we will announce an announcement will be made. In the meantime, we ask for your patience and understanding as we work to improve your experience with this content. The second point is end game content for crafters and gatherers. Based on the information shared in the producer's live letter, a number of players were under the impression the entirety of Isghard Restoration would be designed as end game content. Following its release, some of these players have expressed opinions that it does not contain anything difficult to be considered in-game content and have been disappointed as a result. As we recently discussed in the producer's live letter, the Isghard Restoration is planned for release in installments across several patches. And while we are taking in-game content into consideration as we develop various systems for this content, what was released in patch 5.11 is but the first of these installments. I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate the concepts behind the Isghard Restoration as a whole. This content is linked to the story that unfolds in the main scenario, and for the most part, it is designed so that it can be enjoyed by all of our players. It is worth bearing in mind that the quest to unlock this content can also be completed by Disciples of War and Magic, and that low-level crafters and gatherers are able to take part in its core elements. In fact, the improvements in patch 5.1 to make crafters and gatherers more accessible are directly linked to the concept for Isghard Restoration. Our aim was to introduce crafting and gathering to players who have never tried it before, so we designed this opening section to appeal to as many players as possible. For that reason, the concerted works were created in a way that does not demand a high degree of skill to enjoy. Rather than beginning by narrowing down the types of players who can participate, we made the first installment in patch 5.1 in a way that would allow players to experience the restoration as an ongoing and evolving project. Since this is the start of a new series of content, for the first part, the various elements that comprise it are remarkably simple. It currently does not include any in-game content that the development team is considering. In particular, the concerted works were created to allow as many players as possible to participate. As for the upcoming installments, we plan to provide a substantial crafting and gathering experience, as well as introduce aspects designed as in-game content. You will begin to see these in updates from patch 5.2 onwards. We apologize to those crafters and gatherers, including fishers, who are expecting new ways to play, but we'll be adding high difficulty recipes, a ranking system, and scratch-off tickets, named to be determined, in future updates, which we are sure will be worth the wait. More details will follow in an upcoming producer's letter live, so please keep your eye out for that. And as always, we are grateful to all of you, the players, for your feedback and support.
Boom, baby. That is, I loved every word that you just read. It's something Chris and I kind of just put a video together. If you guys haven't seen it, link is, it's on the channel. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, share, social media.
I'm getting a bit of a flashback while he was reading that, though.
Yeah.
Especially near the end.
Which part? What? Talk to me about your flashback.
Oh, hello, Eureka.
Yeah. hands down. And
let me finish the thought.
And that's where Eureka in and of itself, despite like its instance nature, like Valdez and Arsenal and more, like it wasn't really like delivered 100%, and thus like by the time the third iteration came around, it was much more enjoyable. But for me, the Isghard Restoration is the first major piece of MMO content that we've seen in this game. You could argue Eureka because it did funnel people into like a specific zone.
Well, no, it's just the way they're doing this reminds me of how the fact that Eureka started off small and they knew that the future plans were going to expand it. Just like how we know that 5.2 will be adding gathering. Because currently 5.1 doesn't have gathering scripts, while 5.2 will actually have gathering areas. This just reminds me of the whole adding new features every sort of. Do you think that's area.
A good thing or a bad thing?
It's good, but I wish they'd added some actual gathering stuff in this one for those that do want to gather, because the XP from the crafting side is ridiculous.
So
you can still get a ton of experience from just straight up gathering nodes. I think we did the math yesterday, and Brian was getting roughly like a 250th of a level. So 1 to 2 stacks should level you just from a hard gathering method, which is the least effective way to measure. And you are making a crazy amount of money.
Yeah, I leveled up 4 times, and I made like 5 million gil, and I was using more of my materials.
And then it was me. I was just going to the market board and buying all the...
Right, and I ended up, because I
Thank
made
you
so
for
much
5 million
money.
gil.
Yeah, thank you, Chillie. Because I made so much money, I ended up just also going out and buying more, and that actually had me create a lot of materials. I ended up getting a lot of scripts, was able to put a guide together, and basically told people, don't waste your money on those Aetherite tickets, because it was like, what a joke.
Attorney said Golden Honey sold very well.
Oh, I bet. Like it, and that's one of the things that I like really loved about it, because I felt, and I feel like, even though right now we're doing a podcast, I feel like progress is being made. That whether I'm engaging with it at the moment or I'm engaging with it later, that as a server, this is something where I am not the hero of the story. I'm a cog in a bigger machine. I'm the adventurer of 1.0. I'm not the warrior of light of 2.0. And that's just how this content makes me feel. And I actually really appreciate that piece of it. And they did talk about how like it's going to be like they got more stuff coming. And that's the iterative process of development. Hopefully this isn't a retelling of Eureka, in which that they actually didn't have enough time. They couldn't make Eureka the way they wanted to, and they had to break it up. Eureka was delayed. This doesn't feel like it was delayed, in my opinion.
Oh no, this feels really well done. But the thing is that I don't like the whole being able to jump over to do the fates.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they could have said that it's because there's not enough people that are on certain servers. I felt like they should have, because it's going to be a couple of weeks until the next patch, because we've got early December, we've got Blue Mage and PvP. They know it already works okay. They should have just limited it to the servers and seen how many people started leveling up crafters, because I don't touch crafters until this.
Mm-hmm.
And
I disagree.
Let Chillie finish his thought, and then I want Chris.
I'm sure a lot of people have jumped into crafters because of this, so they should have seen how many people responded and then flip the switch if they see there's not enough people.
So I could see a compromise being that we'll let the concerted work run once, and then I don't know how this works from a coding standpoint, but we'll let it run once, and then if it fails, the next time it will be allowed to be visited. So I could see there being a compromise, but I would say that this not only helps the servers that don't have enough crafters, but those servers that have 4 times as many. I was not able to get into the one on Sargatanas, and it's more than possible that there are enough crafters on the server I play on that I wouldn't have been able to get in even if the world visit system was not enabled for it, because there's just too many on Sargatanas, which means I could then jump over to Siren, which is a lower populated server on my data center, and try to help them with theirs because I missed mine. And so I actually jumped over to Siren. I wasn't able to get into that one either. So I tried using the world visit system, and I appreciate that I was given more than one ticket to the event. I appreciate that I was able to kind of try multiple times. My intent wasn't to go complete stage 1 as many times in a row. So if they wanted to kind of put that restriction in place, I could see.
Yeah, that's the main problem I have. Is I know people that were just jumping from server to server to get as many as they could.
Like a simple so from a coding perspective, it's not actually a coding issue in my professional opinion. It's actually more of a user understanding issue. So it's like when we build applications, does the user know how to interact with the application? If they press this button, does the desired effect happen, or does something else that they didn't expect happen that can cause fear in creation? So the easier solution or compromise, in my opinion, is doing a concerted work puts you on a 24-hour lockout or a 16-hour lockout from doing another one, thus ensuring that you're not going to hop from A to B to C to D.
Well, no, make it an 8 hours, because there seem to be about 8 hours in between.
Not trying to make it like I was just pulling a number out of my head.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. I think
some form in which that you can't go from A to B to C every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think the fates are 8 hours apart, so maybe have it an 8 hour.
Yeah, something
or 6.
Something where it's just like, oh, it popped on Sarg. Well, I got into this, and that's thus basically thinning the queue. Many people got to do this. They achieved it. Now, the thing that I talked to Chris about personally was, like, I don't see that the concerted work offers any unique reward that you can't right now currently get in scripts. Maybe that will change. Maybe there's an achievement. And I understand that kind of concept. Obviously, there's an excitement to it. But when people kind of go into it and say, hey, I got experience and I got I got scripts. Cool. Like
Yeah.
we're getting experience in scripts by the bigger phase that leads up to that doesn't require you to be in the zone. So unless there was some real major tie-in reward, sure, you want to do it. But that's the beauty. That's where I kind of come from the other angle of it, is that it doesn't matter if I do it or don't, as long as somebody does it. We're all a team. So whether I'm checked in and in this zone doing this event or I'm not, I get credit for the event because it's moving progress forward as a server. It's not an individualized experience. And I think that's where the game has somewhat set itself up for this kind of frustration and drama, namely because so much of it is instance and individualized. So it does set the tone so that, like, for the last several years, we've been marching to the Warrior of Light drum, that we are the hero and the conqueror and the savior, etc. And then all of a sudden it's like, I like, were you here for this thing? No. And that's a really important
did it
moment.
without you.
We did it without you. We didn't need you. And that should be a relief. if we truly...
I'll admit, though, I was a little offended when they said, "Oh, we need your papers." I'm like, really? Me? You need papers on who I am?
Like, come on, guys.
These
like,
dragons might say hello.
I have to go to other
Sparkle
shards.
don't care.
I have to go to other whole different dimensions so people don't know who I am.
Yeah.
And then I save that dimension, and then I have to hop again because I'm so good at saving people. But no, I love being a small piece of a bigger machine, and that's one of the things that I think this brings about. And thus, like, if people can't get into the concerted work, what I was telling Chris is that, like, if in 6 weeks you were just like pulling your hair out because you haven't had the opportunity to do one of these things because of the problem of hopping, not because of a timing. Like, you're like, oh, it popped when I was at 3 a.m. I'll wait around. But it's like every time I'm online, I'm there in the zone, and it just can't handle it because it's so popular. People want so much for it. Figure it out, and that's what Yoshi P ended up basically setting. I don't see his tactic as actually being wrong. I see it as very exciting. I see it as a very good sign for a healthy game that so many people are interested in this. It has nothing to do with battle yet. Go ahead, Chillie.
The thing is, I feel like once people have got their mounts, because the cool mount, and once people have leveled up their jobs, then it's going to die out a bit because you're guaranteed the level, by the way, for the Fate. If you get gold, it's a guaranteed level. Yeah,
that's the ultimate thing. Like, there's going to be individual, drive that puts people into it, and then there's still the also community server drive. So let's say somebody in today or tomorrow knocks out their mounts. They're not that expensive. Like, I made a couple of thousand, a couple thousand scripts yesterday. I only need like 14,000, 15,000 to basically get everything I want. But I still, in my mind, am going to be participating in it. I was just downstairs last night, crafting and gathering, doing way more than and being pulled in a kind of in a passive way. I can sit back and have it like, and Julie and I were watching, comedy special, and I'm just kind of grinding away, and I'm loving every second of it. It was really weird because I haven't had that personal experience with this game since 1.0. And that's just something that because I love seeing people out in the world. I guess the last time, maybe that's not true, when Blue Mage dropped. But obviously, they run into this, this wall. Like, let's say in 2 weeks, no one's touching this content. Ultimately, that's going to feel like Blue Mage. Like, it's like, okay, thank you for the 2 weeks of enjoyment. Let me know when there's a new update. Like, they need to figure out a Paragon or a merit system or something in which that XP doesn't lose value, so that anything that gives XP maintains its value. Chillie, any other thoughts on what Yoshi P wrote? Because he talked about it from two perspectives. We kind of talked about the rush of the concerted works. What about the end game perspective?
Well, I thought we already knew that this wasn't going to be, at least the first part wasn't going to be endgame, because they talked about all the stuff to help low-level players get through it.
Maybe we did as major enthusiasts and people who cover the game.
But I guess if you didn't look into it,
if you read the patch notes and listened to the live letter, you knew this. But not everybody that plays this game does those things.
Spoilers: most people don't do those things.
Right.
And so those people, that's where the frustration comes from, right? That bulk of players that didn't get that message.
Yeah, that's why we kept hammering home, because I was more worried the blowback would be like, why can't I get my Isghard house? It's like, people are like, oh, Isghard's house is coming.
Yeah, I did
after we
quick-
do
keep-
all of this, and that means maybe it means 6.0. Like we don't know how long.
I
want
want to say 5.5.
That would make sense. That would be a really exciting thing for 5.5. I think what I really actually appreciate this is that it kind of feels how ARR and Heavensward felt with the rebuilding of the zones. How that would happen patch over patch, like visually you would see that happen, even though you weren't doing turn-ins, but it still felt like everything you were doing was narratively doing that. And then with Stormblood, they went more the individual instance piece of it. This bringing it back to kind of a society perspective, I really appreciate. Go ahead.
I had an idea on Twitter that I suggested that they could do, really. And this might sound a bit weird to some people.
Okay.
But they announced that there's going to be season rewards that you can only get once.
That's awesome.
If you win the season reward, you can't win it again.
That's fantastic. And then at some point it should go away, like from a seasonal perspective.
What if the season reward is the ability to pre-purchase one of the housing plots?
That would be amazing.
Because you're the one who put so much effort into it, and you're the one who helped build the most.
Yeah,
you then get the
people would be so mad.
But
I don't have time to be the top ranked person in a season.
They can be mad all they want. It's the whole like you didn't take time to help me bake the bread. Now you want to come eat the bread. Julie will always tell that story.
But I paid for the bread.
Did you gather the wheat? Did you grind it?
Season. Yeah, not number one, but there's more than one house. It could be like the top 50.
I love the idea.
They can make it
I love the idea.
They can make it script based to where you just like by playing it naturally, you've accrued a ton of scripts. You can purchase your plot of land in Isghard, which I tell you right now, I'm not interested in housing. I would buy and move to Isghard, depending on how it ultimately ends up looking. I do like the beach, and it might end up being that, hey, I got my personal house in Isghard. Boom! I'm a part of the problem.
I'm getting 2 houses in Isghard.
I used to have 2 houses, which pissed people off. So.
It's housing. Housing has been a major point of contention. Zoela's actually talking about how Fisher got completely forgotten this time around. Chris, you're a major fisherman.
I love fishing. What part of So on one hand, I'm incredibly frustrated with how simple the system is right now and how it doesn't favor in-game players from a standpoint of they say they're going to deliver another half, but there are systems in-game that promise complexity in the future, and that future never shows up. So my concern is what if we don't get Baldezi and Arsenal? What if they get halfway through the Isghard Restoration and go, meh? I don't think they will, but what if they do? Now, Fisher doesn't... So Fisher doesn't have a place this early on. So they said in the live letter that the restoration is going to be a huge construction. And so the first thing you do in any major construction process is you set up where supplies are going to land, you set up scaffolding, you set up cranes, you set up areas where the workers will congregate. That doesn't involve fishing. Now, if the next area is, okay, now we have to bring in all the NPCs that are going to help us. Those NPCs might need food. They might need equipment. All of a sudden, that focuses on a very different lore-wise. If that's a step, that would be a step. So I just think fishers don't really, just like in real life, fishers aren't involved in setup scaffolding and cranes.
What are you doing? Throwing fish at it?
Well, that's Blue Mage's job.
Yeah, Blue Mage.
That would be such a funny meme on the game, as well as kind of like I would laugh so hard if all of a sudden you see Blue Mage is over in the corner because I was talking with Larry Czar about this today, and he says I thought they also talked about at some point even having battle classes having some kind of impact and thing. And the thing I say about that is that this content makes me hope that we see other systems in place that as an entirety of a server, that no matter what we're doing, imagine if you cleared Ultimate, you made 1,000 points of progress towards some major thing that we're all doing. And if we clear a dungeon, you get 2 points. Just like that everything you're doing is just feeding and grabbing and working together and bringing people together to have a better and a more cohesive experience overall. And so I don't know. Did they talk about having battles and battle classes having some kind of impact?
Well, they've said that there's going to be some impact to it, but they didn't say anything about what they'd do.
Something with a relic.
They said they would have a role, but they said that this content would be centered on crafters and gatherers. So the ability to complete the quest, for example.
Yeah.
You can do it. this isn't, but this as a whole is not intended. The actual work itself is not intended for you.
Mm-hmm. Well, so that actually brings up a good point regarding fishers. You should be able to feed the workers, right? You get the culinarians.
Once we get some workers.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I think right now we don't have anywhere for the workers to congregate, so there are no workers. Mm-hmm. There's us, but we're kind of imaginary. So, like, if there's a wave of NPCs that come in to start lifting stones in place or whatever, then those workers being fed would be an interesting way to tie in fishers.
And plus, we're all the same person technically, so they probably think that we're all just feeding ourselves right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the question is, do those fishers do those workers just eat a certain amount per day, and if you don't feed them, they don't progress, or and then once you get to that amount, does it just stop receiving fish for the day? Like, we don't need any more fish. We've got enough fish for today.
They probably won't do that so that people don't have to worry about rushing to feed before everyone else, before the cap.
Exactly. All right, so does anybody here have any more thoughts regarding the Isghard Restoration? Because I want to talk about Ultimate and so much more.
Well, we do know that at least in 5.2 we are getting a new version of Diadem for Gatherers. So.
Yeah, and I try not to put expectations that they might not be able to meet, but I'm actually really looking forward to that. Isghard Restoration has restored my enjoyment of gathering right now. We'll see if it maintains.
I tried doing gathering. Have you guys tried Desynth yet with the new changes?
100%. I cleaned up so much of my inventory. Somebody even commented on the stream saying, like, wow, Brian, your inventory looks amazing. I go, thank you.
So I've Desynth probably in the realm of 2,000 items, 3,000 items.
Yeah.
Since the change. I guess I'm not understanding the point now.
I wish more things were tradable. I wish more for a player economy. But what it is nice about the Desynth change, the effect I think that it was maybe trying to do is gear doesn't drop for me, like drop to the floor anymore. I roll on everything. Everything. I am breaking that down no matter what. And that is essentially what's changed for me. I wish it was more tradable because there's something inherently disgusting about like destroying gear, like in my mind. But this is just my rooted Final Fantasy XI. It's like, no, man, I would like, even if you lost a use for it, somebody would find a use for it because it was tradable. But yeah, I really was always bummed out when gear would drop to the floor and people were like, you could trade it for seals. I go, at some point, I haven't needed seals forever. I'm seal capped.
Sell the cordials.
Like, okay, but I don't need gil.
Sell the cordials.
I'm a very unique situation in which that I have no need of gil, I have no need of scripts, I have no need of, and thus it would be like, but now I'm like, all right, I'm going to break it down and sell it for parts. And that's where I just wish it was tradable because I would have.
Attorney says mainly coming in handy for the Sublime Solution Desynth.
Yeah, so when you cross over the recommended number,
yeah.
You have a chance at these rarer drops, these rare items. Now, I'm only like in that 2,000 to 3,000 items Desynth ballpark. And a substantial portion of those were leveling up Desynths that I didn't have high enough. But I have not seen a substantial, so let's say you have an item that's eye level 400.
Yeah.
I have not seen a substantial difference in if your Desynth is at 401 or if it's at 460.
Okay.
So like being substantially over doesn't seem to make a difference. The moment you trigger that orange text, that seems to just be binary from my experience. Now, granted, I think to really get a feel for that, you'd have to do tens of thousands of items, and I'm just not there yet. I'm not saying I won't get there. I did it with Materia. Before I put that Materia guide out, I went to Munimex. I probably spent 5 or 6 hours of literally just click, 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 click. I destroyed thousands and thousands and thousands of Materia. So that's where I'm headed. But I was wondering... But I was wondering if anybody else is having a different experience. I'm not done. I'm not ready to put out the Desynth guide yet. But I was wondering if anybody was having a different experience. If you could leave that in the comments below, that'd be a huge help because I can only destroy so much. But I am trying. I am buying it up off vendors. I am clearing out the market board. I'm down several million gil. I think I'm down like 5 million already, which when you're buying items that are 4,000, 6,000, 8,000 gil a piece, that's a lot of items.
One of the cool things about it, though, is that we're seeing a lot of gil leave the economy and transfers. Obviously, the engagement in the market economy, as well as just materials. Obviously, a lot of materials are coming in, so there's just this increase, obviously, market movement, which is really exciting. It's interesting. I am personally a little disappointed that I have no issue with certain new drops being a part of this. You know, that it's like, okay, there's new materials that drop from these zones. I wish it relied more on existing drops. It does use them, but I really wish it was more like, yeah, you know, we added maybe like 2 or 3 new items or 4 items for gatherers per, you know, for each one, and then everything else is still just a part of the current economy, thus driving more of that consumption in the current stock, and thus. But I guess, you know, there would have been a risk there. What are your thoughts regarding the economy?
It didn't fix the prices. I'm still finding some items sold below vendor, both items that are generated by Decent and items that I do Decent, which I really appreciate those people. When I'm buying stuff at like 100 gil, that vendors for 200 gil, I'm like, well, thank God, this makes my money go a lot further. But yeah, I don't think it's changing anything. I think it's the same economy that was before. It's just more items.
Chillie, any final thoughts regarding before we move into Ultimate?
I haven't touched Decent really yet, so yeah, I have no opinion on this.
Okay, cool. We want to let's move into Ultimate, because one of the things we're noticing when we saw last time, it brought 14 to the top of Twitch, and it didn't do it this time, and that's actually kind of a shocker for me. But the content is really cool. I was able to catch a little bit of it yesterday, not as much as I wish. I wish I was able to be more of a lurker, but I ended up getting really busy with just like family stuff as we prepare to have baby number 4 here in a week. So as we count that down. By the way, next week we've got Mioni on the podcast, assuming I don't have a little one that I'm having to help out with Julie at that time. That's Friday, so we'll do the podcast Wednesday, and then 2 days later we'll be welcoming number 4 here. So be sure to check out the podcast coming up, you know, next week, and hopefully we don't have to reschedule.
Congratulations again, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. Hopefully we won't have to reschedule Mioni, because we had to do it because of BlizzCon. That kind of interfered last time, so I'll be able to get him on and talk about some more 14. But so I was able to catch a little bit of Ultimate. Chillie, you said that you weren't able to run in the pre-show because like your Black Mage wasn't able to get off work. Have you been able to watch Ultimate, and what's your impressions of it?
I've been watching a bit of Mr. Happy, Xenos, and Golden Top. Mostly Mr. Happy, actually, and it's been interesting.
Yeah.
It does look like it definitely looks a lot harder than I feel like the other ones. Especially with the lack of progress some of them have made, with the fact they've been stuck on the transition phase between phase 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The transition phase. Not the real fight, but just transition.
How do you feel? Like, do you have a prediction on when you think we will start to see our first clears?
I think it's going to be about 11 days, maybe.
You
at
think
least.
so? Yeah, last time it was like 10 or 11 days. A lot of that, I think the first Ultimate in the patch series is a little bit more challenging, because players are still getting, you know, really kind of learning the rotations. We just saw, obviously, with 5.1, a lot of job adjustments that came in forms of potency, obviously going up, but still like changes nonetheless. So 11 days from yesterday, that would put, let's see, what day would that be on the calendar? So that would put it at 7, 8, 9, 10. So by the 23rd, that'll be interesting to see. I hope so. Like, I like it when it takes a longer time, but obviously Yoshi P does worry about players' health, in terms of that people are throwing themselves at this content for so long. I think we saw that with the last Ultimate, where people went at it hard for 2 days and then said, okay, we got to take a breather. Like, it's
but the
not
thing is
going
that
to
they
be...
cleared it after that breather, if I'm rightly, didn't they?
They did. And that ended up, I think, allowing them, their bodies and minds to rest a little bit, because that does have an impact. So overall, like, Chillie's a Savage Raider, if you guys don't know. Many podcasts. This guy is a constant creator. What are your expectations for your team going in? Obviously, you have to clear current Savage, which you've done.
We've done.
Did you clear the previous Ultimates?
No, this is actually the first time, because our group had some issues the last tier, because a couple of members had to leave for real life issues, so we kept getting pugs, which meant it kept delaying our progress.
Yeah.
This is the first tier we've actually completed it fast enough that we're going to step in before the next tier, because we've got a couple of months.
Yeah.
We probably won't clear it. I'm going to say this now. I'll be happy if we do, but if we don't, it's just that we want to make sure that we got something to do when we normally would raid.
Yeah.
Because we're almost geared up from the raid. I think we only need one more weapon, and everyone's geared. So rather than just disbanding the static for 3 months, we thought, okay, we'll just spend the normal hours and a bit of a laugh in Ultimate.
Good deal.
So if we clear it, we clear it. If we don't,
I think that's the right and healthy attitude personally, is that are you having fun? Are you enjoying the content? I personally am very thrilled that they make this content. You know, even though like Chris and I talked to somebody's like, are you going to do Ultimate? I go, no, like I just don't ever see like Ultimate in my future. I see Savage in my future, but one of the things we talked about from a content creator perspective is that we tried to organize a static. It didn't work, and essentially I just got pulled into the Garden of Salvation raid for Destiny 2 and had a blast with that raid. As a content creator, I make a great pickup alt. I don't make a great raid leader. I just like, when it comes to content creation, what like I feel like I want to make for the channel, etc. Like it's in contrast to trying to sit here and try to organize a group of people to get that done. And I'm at peace with that now. Like I was really stressed about it this summer. I was like, man, we just can't get that. Like I want to get into the Savage stuff. And then essentially I was like, okay, I'm just going to have to let that go and just focus in on the stuff that I can do and that I enjoy doing as well. So, Ultimate...
Can I promote the fact that I will probably be streaming it?
When are you going to be streaming? Today?
I'll be streaming it on Friday when we go in.
Make sure you, like guys, we follow him on Twitch. We'll be sure to include his Twitch link in the description. So if you're watching this and before Friday, go check him out. Cheer him on.
It will not probably be family friendly, so just anyone that listens, I warn you. I'm sorry.
I don't know how people don't like. You have to like be able to be loose, and that's why it's like I don't think I'd be surprised if anybody would stream an Ultimate on YouTube the way YouTube.
I play a lot of first person shooters. We do not cover them on this channel. I would like this channel to remain something that if you want to play our videos without headphones at work, that is okay. If you want to have kids around, that is okay.
And I wanted to give that heads up in case people do go to the stream and then it gets a bit colourful, because I don't want to be,
Yep.
You're good. You're good. Like, I don't.
You should hear me playing Halo. My wife's like, "Are you even having fun?"
You should hear my wife playing Halo.
That's who I'm playing with.
Whoever says being a raid leader is like being the parent of 7 adult kids. That sounds like what a raid leader has to put up with.
I agree with that. So all right.
I mean, when I played when I was raid led in WoW, it was a group of dudes. We were 25 of us.
So beyond Ultimate itself, we've seen numerous changes to the job adjustments. I've gone hands on with Summoner. I've been playing. I finished Red Mage, and I'm working on the guides. And I'm doing White Mage, and love it every second of that. But we've seen those balance adjustments. I haven't touched Ninja yet. What are you guys feeling about the current balance of the jobs that we have for PvE content?
So my concerns with Ultimate, since I didn't get to share,
I am so sorry. I'm a horrible host.
Are that if the viewership is down, if we can't keep up with the other games now, does this mean that we definitely shouldn't have a third Ultimate? And does this lower the position of Ultimates in expansions to come? They've been this pinnacle of content. They've been, one of the measures of them has been the interest in them. We have like 40 some odd teams competing for World First, according to Frosty's list, who's tracking all this.
Yeah, not all of them are streaming, but yeah.
Yeah, you got to remember, most of those, a lot of the serious World Firsters will not stream it because, it's harder for them to focus if they've got chat on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sharing your progress, I think there's some advantage to it. If they're stuck on a mechanic, they don't know how you're getting past it. There's a big shift in the WoW community now that Method streams that progress. But I think that's my question to you guys. That's to kind of finish that topic up. Does that change the position of Ultimate? Is the interest in Ultimate just wearing out? Is it something with Shadowbringers? Like, Shadowbringers in theory should be the biggest this game's ever been. Why are the Ultimate viewership numbers so low?
Right now, it's at 14.6 thousand, and I've been tracking it, and I've seen it get up into 20s. Last time we saw it get much higher with the last Ultimates, and that's actually the thing I've been tracking a lot. Is it's like what we call earned media. Now we're just looking right now at Twitch numbers. We're figuring out better ways to kind of bring in like videos and content creation itself, like who's all making content for this game. But the numbers are interesting. I think it's as much as I know some people don't like World of Warcraft, especially like from that perspective. World of Warcraft is almost at 66,000 viewers right now, and they obviously from a kind of a personality perspective, Asmongold commands a huge viewership. They're like and World of Warcraft has that. I think the resurgence of Classic though has and we talked about it when it came out. Like, we hope that Classic can help reshape what it means to be an MMORPG, because we've seen trends over the last decade, and you can see that WoW clearly, with BFA being one of the most hated games released in the series, didn't do well. But now with a return to Classic, there is an interest, and I think it does two things. I think people who can't play Classic because they don't have the time can watch it. And that could be one reason why numbers are up for that, because you can have your personal experience. You don't need to watch. And there's also a risk. If you're a new player coming into 14, there's a risk you're going to see something in Shadowbringers, and the story is so protected that is one thing. And even Ultimate in itself, could have that. People could be talking about the story, and you could still be in Heavensward. So there could be just the fact that maybe with the story being so good, the wave of players is still working their way through the content, and we see that. We've seen that when people come into our podcast saying, "Hey, are you talking about story spoilers?" Because I'm still in Heavensward, or I'm still in Stormblood, and it's like, okay, even still in November, months after the expansion, I still have to in the back of my head think consciously about the words I use when it talks about the story. Chillie, what are your thoughts?
I agree. As a content creator, you've got to make sure you don't spoil it for anyone, because anyone can join in and get. Someone could be joining as we're speaking right now.
Yeah.
They might have just downloaded the game and started it up, and anything we say would technically be a spoiler for them.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
And with the fact that the ultimates are previous fights as well, that's again another bit of a spoiler, because some people might just want to learn what's the fights in Alexander without actually knowing the fights.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they'd go, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I didn't know Power
that could be
Rangers
one
were
thing.
in Alexander.
I mean, I feel that my concern is that there's just not enough interest in creating content around the game. That it's, like you said, like obviously like the top 14 streamers right now are commanding a large audience, 5,000, 6,000 viewers, etc., which is fantastic. And I'm really happy for them. But then there's a big drop, and maybe it's also there's just not enough content creation around the game itself, and thus that's why we continue to try to encourage it within the community. Like make it. Somebody asked me, it's like, hey, would it be okay if I make a controller guide? I'm like, yes. Do it. It's like I don't see it as competition. I see it as more collaborative, because maybe I'll learn something in that regards. But I think it helps for me, because I feel like I have such a deep love for the game, that I want it to continue to grow, and I want more people to experience it. And if they don't like it, that's fine, but I at least want more people to try and experience the game and see if it is something for them, if they are connected into kind of what it means. What was interesting, because I'm tracking more and more games as I've been doing this kind of research project, and it's interesting to see obviously single player games, even multiplayer games, how they perform over time. There's usually a nice initial kick, and then obviously a massive drop when it comes to the single player games. Borderlands 3 for me is unsurprising in how fast it has fallen off in terms of that kind of content. Basically what I was calling back in the time. Like, it is a multiplayer game, people will continue to play it, but from a content perspective, I think that's why we see games that have more sandbox elements perform better. That's why we see Fortnite. That's why we see Minecraft. That's why we see these games that have this sense of discovery and creation perform better over time. So that's just my piece on it. Chris, do you have any thoughts before we move into the next section?
No, I mean let's talk about jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Ultimate's a natural segue into that. The balance of jobs. It'll be interesting to see what the grade comp of the world first is, because that's what sets the meta. Any assumptions about what classes are good and bad will be, if one guild clears it with that comp, with that class being a major role, that'll kind of set the trend, right? What is the tank combo of the top guild?
Yeah. I'm really excited to see how that plays out with all the new thoughts, because we'll be putting out a new kind of tier list regarding kind of the jobs and how they're ranking, and then adding in essentially what we decided from a utility perspective, because people didn't like that I didn't rank based off of utility, and I say, how do you rate hugs and kisses? It's like, how do you rate raises when you're in a clear versus a progression? And progression utility for a raise perspective is huge. In a farm perspective, you shouldn't be dying. And so it's like you want to focus in on DPS. So we're going to be looking at what the top guilds are using as a part of party comp and scoring utility based off of those jobs that do that. So if more people prefer a dancer bard combo, or something like that, that's how we're going to use it. And so we'll do, actually, as a tier list, we're going to do just raw data, raw numbers, and then another category right next to it, and rank it based off utility. So
Summoner's busted right now. I can see the winning team being Summoner, Ninja. No,
I agree. In a good way. I agree. Like my DPS went up. Yeah. My DPS for Summoner went up. My love of Summoner tells me I want a different Summoner. I think it's time that they go back to the drawing board for the job. But that's going to be 6.0 at a minimum.
5.1. I need you to redo my job in 5.1. Oh, I can't imagine the frustration that would be behind the people that made the game to in a 0.1 feel the need to redo it.
I think it's time.
Especially,
go ahead.
Oh, that's hard because they just spend so long, and they just spent a ton of effort making Machinist, and it's not just one job. Like, it's not like they have like a whole dev team for each job.
Yeah.
So it's a ton of work.
I want the Summoner to almost kind of return to its kind of 11 roots, in which that, like, as a part of it, you have your I'm a Summoner, and then you get to then bring out something awesome, and you have some of that with Bahamut and Phoenix, but essentially with the egg, like, literally, I think it needs a full-on redesign, in which that maybe you could, your summons are either a part of a rotation or something more than that, because literally I've gotten to that point where I'm just like, I like the aspect of Summoner and because my Eggies can't be hit, because they can't die, because they're not really a pet anymore, they're just an automatic DPS, automatic, just that regular, auto attack for me now, and they do have function, but the way that it's shifted, the way that it's changed, really drives me to the point where I'm like, let's make Summoner something epic. Like when you bring out Bahamut and Phoenix, that is a really cool moment. Why can't we have that moment with even more of what makes Summoner so interesting and rooted as a part of the game's design? And that's what I see what Machinist did. We were like, man, Machinist just doesn't excite me, but now it does. Like when I get to bring out the Queen, like we could argue numbers and stuff, but when I get to do that, I feel more like a Summoner than the Summoner feels currently.
So you're saying that the next expansion is going to be the caster expansion?
Oh, well, we never had a caster as a main job in any of the trailers.
Because the only job we're missing now is healer and caster. Mm-hmm. Then every job has free rolls.
Yeah.
I think 6.0 will have, I would think it's healer caster.
That'd be cool. Yeah. I'd be really cool with that. I'd be really excited about that. Because both are casters.
I'm pinning down Geomancer and Time Mage.
Oh, really? Okay, so I definitely I could see a Time Mage. I don't know, Geomancer would work as the healer, right?
Yeah, because they've already made the cameo in the Astrologian quest lines. Mm-hmm. And you've also got the dungeon based on a Geomancer.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people remember when I was saying, I said Dancer, I didn't have Gunbreaker, but I was thinking, like, Dancer, and what jobs was I calling? Man, I have to go look back at this video, and people are like, it's Geomancer because of the dungeon. I go, oh, no.
It would be interesting to do it, to say, okay, it's time to go back, and it'd be interesting to make Thaumaturge an in-game class, and make Thaumaturge Arcanist, or Thaumaturge, so to go back and make the base job the end game, because I think that it's a bummer that those get tossed.
Actually means healer. So
right, and so it'd be super interesting to kind of like take the Thaumaturge and make that your Time Mage interpretation or whatever.
Yeah, like that's where I think though from like them with Summoner, they didn't fully split. They split them as much as I guess they could without really splitting Scholar and Summoner, and so like they share like one or two base skills now, which is kind of funny and interesting. But yeah, like I would see like they could do so much with it.
Finish the split.
Mage could heal in 1.0. You're right, Zoella.
Finish the split. All right. So,
can I just add?
Please.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
The only reason why I'm going with Time Mage for the healer, for the DPS, sorry, is mainly because Astrologian used to have quite a lot of time-based magic.
Yep.
And since they reworked, they've got rid of all of them.
They pulled it out. And that's why always people would say, like, yeah, I'd love to see a time mage. And they're like, we have Astrologian. I go, Astrologian isn't a time mage. They have some time magic, but it's not a time mage. And that's actually what I would love to see in even Final Fantasy XI. Like, I've always wanted to have that job, from especially as it related to tactics. It's so fascinating. You get speed up, you get slow down, you get your gravity and your time and space magic. Like, there's so much they could do with it. It is.
I want it to be a limited job.
Oh, like the time mage is a limited job?
Yeah,
I think we'll
because
see
there are aspects of manipulating time that would not work in standard content.
Yeah,
trial content, raid content, etc. And to really embrace those, the thing about the limited job system is there are no rules. It doesn't have to be balanced. If you can make the boss stand still, make the boss stand still. Like, just do it.
What would the limit break be? Like a tracer, essentially, like, oh, we wiped. Time age limit break, we're all dead now, we're alive.
I like if it just a clock appeared underneath everyone and then it reversed, it went backwards.
Yeah, exactly. Like busted out like Tracer and be like, oh my goodness. That'd be, but imagine it being like if we wiped, we had the limit break, the time age could still like pop it off, and then it's like like
right.
Cool.
But only a limited job lets you screw with things like that. Like if you don't make it a limited job, it has to be a job that can be picked up out of the party and the party still functions, and dropped in and the party still functions.
Yeah.
It can't break party mechanics.
Right.
Well, that's why stop would probably be just a generic stun, really.
Right. That's why I like the limited job system, is it lets you explore concepts that would otherwise break basic game mechanics.
Well, that means they can do it, and if it does, it doesn't ruin the raid. Like if all of a sudden
people would be upset.
They all of a sudden the update to Blue Mage said, "Hey, you can burn down ultimates like that. You just got to come with 2 Blue Mages, and and you'll be fine." Then people would be upset by that fact. Right. I want to shift focus, unless anybody has anything else on this. I want to talk about the relic and the fact that we haven't heard anything really about it.
We haven't heard anything.
And typically we would get them in the 1 point, the 0.15 patch. Stormblood got it delayed to 2.5 due to obviously the delay in Eureka. They talked about the redoing of Diadem as gathering focus content, but yet we don't know what's happening with the relic. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Chillie, what are your thoughts?
It's a bad thing, really, because normally the relic is a step behind the Savage gear.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird for them to rush ahead to like a high level-ish relic at the start.
It does create a gap in when we go to 5.2, which will increase the overall gear, the gear score that's out there. So I mean, they'll make adjustments to it, but yeah, like typically at this point, like you would be right behind Ultimate. I mean, you'd be right behind Savage. Chris,
without talking about lore or spoilers, it is possible that the 5.0 content cannot host a relic. That it is something that needs to be more from where we are now, and then it would be neat to see the high level crafting stuff have an effect on that. So it would be neat to see it tied behind progress on Isghard Restoration. And that would be the only reason in my mind to hold it this late. Otherwise, I'm kind of bummed. Otherwise, I wish they would at least tease it or tell us about it in the live letter. But if it's meant to be hidden behind Isghard Restoration, you would have to keep it a secret.
Well, yeah, chances are, remember the first relic that had Diadem? There was actually ingredients you needed to gather from Diadem for the relic.
Mm-hmm. Right, and if the Diadem's getting reworked and their intent is to tie this into relic, it doesn't make sense, because I think for me, the strength in them and us not knowing what it is that when they do tell us about it, it's not like we're waiting a long time. When they told us about Eureka and how it was tied to the relic, it was really like, and then it got delayed, and then it was like, okay, as opposed to now where hopefully it's ready. Like, it's like, hey, by the way, and here's the relic system, and you're going to be playing it in a month. Oh man!
Yay!
Yeah, exactly. And then we can talk about that for instead of like, well, what is it going to be? Like, I had the biggest concerns for New Game Plus, and they announced it, and then they never really talked about it, and then they delivered it, and I go, what a waste of time. Like, that was my reaction to it, because it didn't necessarily appeal to me, but I'm glad that it exists for people out there.
It is useful though. Like, I watch She Heals I Tank.
Yeah.
Twitch.tv She Heals I Tank. Her friend Hyper Pixie She's been playing the game on and off. She mainly plays ESO instead.
Yeah.
But they do a Greenleaf stream where RV and Hyper play either ESO or Final Fantasy. They swap every week.
Mm-hmm.
So RV's helping Hyper with Final Fantasy 14. Well, now with New Game Plus, she's just entered Heaven's Ward.
Yeah.
So RV has used New Game Plus to reset her character back to the start of New Game Plus so that she can experience it with her in the stream.
Mm-hmm. And if they made it to where those single player fights were like allowing them to do them together, it would have been perfect content in my opinion. Yeah. Just because it's awesome, but they have to stop playing together to go do this piece and then come back together. And that's
still better than
it's still better than
one
what it
person
was.
that's just sat around.
Yeah, if my brother started playing, and he's still in ARR, so I'd have to wait till after 5.3. But if he decided to come back and play, I would absolutely use New Game Plus. I just wish that there was I'm going to keep saying, I wish there was some other tangible benefit for doing so. It doesn't have to be efficient.
I'd just be happy
experience.
with a title.
A title.
Yeah, if you have all your jobs capped, it is what it is. But experience is the simple thing to grant.
Yeah. Like even a 10th of the experience that it would, because like I don't want to make it like crazy, but it's like okay, cool. Imagine if I was level 70 and he's level 15, and then I could go join him, and then we're playing together, and I happen to get a reduction in experience, but I'm still somewhat making progress, so that like I am going towards cap or something like that.
The internet tomestones or whatever, those Moogle tomestones.
Yeah. Until you said, what if they give the Moogle tomestones? The fake, irregular.
Exactly, 100%.
Right.
Like it does. Like I don't need it to be amazing.
Basic.
I don't need it to be amazing. I need it to be just a little taste, just a little, a little. Thank you very much for your time. It's like great. Like the enjoyment and the appreciation is me playing with my friend, but I'm not sitting here somewhat sacrificing. Because essentially, like, most cases are skip the cutscene, let's go. But now at least we have this, so it's a good tool. I'm not completely against it. I'm just like just like a little taste of something would be pretty sweet in my opinion.
Yeah, it'd be great if they could just give a few per quest. Like one or two based on how long the quest is.
Just one. Like it doesn't even have to be a mathematical equation.
Well, no, one for a normal quest, and maybe two if the quest involves doing a dungeon.
There you go. Perfect.
Or two if it's an instance. I mean, one where you've actually got to do combat, or you don't just go talk to one person, pick up some trash, and then go to talk to another person.
I'm gonna shift focus to kind of a final thing before we jump into final thoughts. Are you excited about Blue Mage going to 60? We talked a little bit about limited jobs earlier with the job changes, and my heart broke for the Summoner conversation. But what are your thoughts about Blue Mage as it's going to 60 and the changes they've made therein? Chillie.
Oh, me, good. Yes. I love Blue Mage, and I'm really looking forward to the new content. I've looked at some of the leaks, and I'm looking forward to learning some of those abilities, especially with the change in the speed of learning spells.
Are we getting a re-raise yet?
It looks like we're getting some sort of raise or heal. So I haven't seen all the abilities. They just saw little icons.
Okay.
So
yeah, the like getting a re-raise I think would be amazing as a Blue Mage. I wish we would see a re-raise just as a natural spell for like healers or something like that. But still, like I'm like, oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
I'm sure you know about the rework where I don't know if it was this patch because I've got all the abilities right now, so I can't.
5.1 actually has the increased learning. I don't know if that's going to apply to the new spells, but I know that's a kind of a way to.
I would hope not.
I hope not.
I think it does. It's to encourage people to keep going in.
Well, I mean,
encourage people.
Okay.
People had plenty of encouragement to go in initially, and I don't have every single one, but I have a fair bit. I think that keeping the current stuff nice and grindy for the people that do play a lot, and then making things easier for the old stuff for people that want to feel like they have progress when they have less time to play.
Yeah.
I feel like there should be a balance between the two because some of the spells did take, like Shiva, because of the way Shiva worked, you had to wait for her to change to her bow stance and then have her use her ability.
Yeah.
So that meant you had to wait quite a while before actually.
Right.
I think it's great to have just a handful of abilities that are locked like that. You don't want them all to be locked like that, but it's nice
No.
to have a few that are really hard to get.
I still appreciate like if they had some form of merit point system or some kind of glamour level system in this game that kept XP relevant. Blue Mage, once you got all you hit your level cap and then you have all your open world skills, then it's just they kind of dispersed. And it's like it'd be neat if there was same thing with the Isghard Restoration, with the crafters, etc. It'd be neat if there was some reason that always provided a value. Whether you choose to engage with it or not would be up to you. But every time I complete a challenge log and it gives me zero XP, it's just like, oh god, I wish.
How many times? Yes. How many times do I have to learn to throw a fish as a blue mage, and it's just scoring up? You've learned the skill 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Okay, you've learned it 100 times. Now you can throw a Namatsu. It does the same thing, same spell. It's just a visual change to the spell effect.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be kind of painful for my Lalafell.
That'd be so
awesome.
Cool. That would be so cool.
So
but
funny.
that would also tie into more concepts for earned media that kind of ties back into our earlier conversation. There's more things that essentially that as a player base that you could easily go and then create. Like hopefully we'll see the game either one of two things come to its natural conclusion and then have a follow up with whatever Yoshi P's been working on since 2016, or that they're able to bring in more sandbox elements into this core game and continue it on for a very, very long time. With that, Chillie, we are at time. Do you have any final thoughts? Where can people find you? How many podcasts are you promoting today?
Well, I just want to say I really can't wait for Blue Mage. That's my main content I've been looking forward for in this entire patch.
Nice.
So, but you can contact me at mg_Chillie on Twitter. I am in Moogle Go Around Radio. Check out twitch.tv/Moogle Go Around Radio. I'd also like to shout out to some other podcasts that I really enjoy, such as She Hills, I Tank, Phoenix Down Radio, Music Cards XIV, Gather Together, and of course, Casual Hardcore Podcast, which I'm on right now.
You, sir,
go check out their channel, Work to Game.
You're a gift to the community. I appreciate you. So guys, we'll be sure to try to include links if I can get Chillie to make sure I get all those in the description of this. You can also follow him at _Chillie. Check him out on Twitch as well, and then also check out his podcast, We'll Go Around Radio, which is fantastic. So, Chris, what are you working on? Where can people find us?
Oh, we're working through 5.11 content, and I know we have a lot of guides with that. We have a lot of being back in the games, giving us a chance to go back and finish up all the things that we put on our big to-do list in 5.0 to have done before 6.0 that we are not done with. Next week, we have Mione on the podcast, which will be a chance to talk about hopefully some of the things we did not get to this week, because there's a lot to talk about. So I'd love to talk about things like the changes to PvP. I'd love to talk about content that's not out yet, things like Deep Dungeon, spend a little longer talking about Relic. And then I would love to talk spoilers. I don't know if he'll be interested. We didn't get to that today. I've really enjoyed the story, and that's a change for me. And so I'd love to have that conversation. There's a lot of other side content in the game. These patches are enormous. So we only touched on not even half of 0.11, much less all of 0.1, much less all of, there's just so much to do in 14 right now.
It's a great time.
Yeah. And then we're playing a ton of other stuff. So awesome.
All right, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in here. We did broadcast this one on Mixer. Be sure to follow us on their link will be in the description below. Obviously, we're going to be tossing this up on YouTube, but you can find the podcast also wherever podcasts are delivered: Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. So be sure to leave us a review on any of those platforms. It really helps us out as well. We're a creator-focused podcast. We'd like to talk about anything and everything video games, especially with people who are making various content. If there's somebody you want to see make their way to the Casually Hardcore podcast, please let us know. Often more than not, you're introducing us to somebody. You know, it's as far as it goes, like people have been like, oh, I follow you, and it's like, like they have millions of subscribers, and it's like I feel really humbled by that fact, but it's like I wasn't even aware of them as a content creator. So like, if you either make content and you're interested in getting some help, need some help, reach out, let us know how we can help you, as well as also if you have anybody that you particularly follow that you think would be a fun conversation here for this. This goes beyond MMOs. This has always been, I guess, our product that we really enjoy. Because it gives us the opportunity to talk to anybody and everybody within the creation space and hopefully have some interesting conversations. Last week we had Tanner. He's from Robocast talking about Minecraft. And then, like Chris said, we have Mione up next. But I'm going to use this to wrap it up. Thanks, chat, for hanging out. Thanks, thanks, Chillie, for joining in. For Work to Game, my name is Brian.
My name's Chris.
My name's Chillie.
Thanks so much for watching. This guy's a pro. He's right there. We hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.